Life million years ago, prehistoric man versus giant mutant worm. The world was still young. The earth breathed with smoke and fire. Volcanoes painted the sky red, and the air smelled of ash and thunder. Forests were wild jungles of enormous ferns and towering trees that reached for the sun, where creatures roamed a land that no human eyes would ever see again. And among those wild lands, was a man. A lone figure with skin burnt by the sun and eyes that carried the reflection of the flames of survival. His name was Karin, one of the first of his kind, a hunter of shadows, a survivor of storms. He lived not for glory, not for conquest, but simply to see another sunrise. The silence before the storm. For many moons, Karin had traveled across the valley of black stones, where rivers hissed with boiling heat and the ground trembled beneath his bare feet. He carried only a sharpened bone spear and a pouch of dried roots. Hunger was a constant companion. Loneliness, his only friend. But that day, something changed. The air went still. Birds vanished from the sky. Even the wind stopped moving, as if the planet itself held its breath. Karin froze. He crouched low, pressing his ear against the trembling soil. Boom, boom, boom. The sound came from deep beneath the ground, heavy, slow, like the beating of a monstrous heart. He looked around the open plain. There was nothing, only silence. Then the soil cracked beneath his feet. A fissure opened, and from the darkness below came a sound that no man should ever hear, a roar mixed with a hiss, like the death cry of the earth itself. The beast awakens. The ground exploded. From beneath the shattered rock erupted a colossal creature, a worm, but not like any Karin had ever seen. It was larger than the tallest trees, its skin covered in scales of molten black, steaming as if it had crawled from the heart of the planet. Its mouth opened, a circle of razor teeth spinning like blades. The air reeked of sulfur and death. Karin stumbled back, heart pounding. This was no ordinary beast. It was a mutation of nature, a monster born of radiation, fire, and time, a living relic of the chaos that had shaped the young earth. The worm screamed again, its voice shaking the mountains. Flocks of prehistoric birds scattered in terror. The ground quaked as it slithered across the valley, devouring everything in its path. Rocks, trees, even rivers disappeared into its endless mouth. Karin ran. The flight. The man sprinted through the forest, dodging fallen logs and flaming rocks as the giant worm burrowed behind him, its body tearing through the roots like paper. Every few moments, it burst out of the ground again, searching for him, sensing the warmth of his blood, the beating of his fragile heart. He could feel it coming closer. The ground swelled under his feet, then burst apart, throwing him into the air. He landed hard beside a pool of boiling mud. His spear flew from his hand. The creature rose before him, half its body stretching toward the sky. For a moment, Karin saw his reflection in one of its slimy black scales, small, insignificant, a spark of life against a mountain of death. The worm struck. Karin rolled aside, barely escaping the jaws that crushed stone like dry wood. Steam burst from its nostrils. It dived again, crashing into the earth and sending waves of mud and fire across the forest floor. Karin grabbed his spear and ran toward the cliffs, the only high ground for miles. Behind him, the beast roared and followed, splitting the ground like a river of doom. The last tribe. When Karin reached the cliffs, he saw smoke rising, the smoke of his people. Hidden in a cave above the valley lived the last survivors of his tribe, women, children, and elders who had escaped the floods of molten fire weeks before. He shouted a warning, "Run!" But before they could understand, the earth beneath the cave cracked open. The monster emerged again, towering between the cliffs. Its massive body coiled, eyes glowing like burning coals. The people screamed. Stones rained from above. Karin felt the old rage of survival, the same fire that had kept his ancestors alive through storms and death. He climbed the rocks, bleeding, gasping, until he stood face to face with the creature. He had only one weapon. A single sharpened bone, nothing compared to the size of that monster. But inside Karin burned something the beast would never know, will. Fire and fear. He remembered the lessons of the elders. When earth gives you no weapon, use its heart. The heart of the earth was fire. Karin turned and ran toward the volcano ridge above the cliffs. The worm chased him, tearing through rock. Lava oozed down the sides, glowing like blood in the twilight. He grabbed a burning branch and tied it to his spear with strands of dried skin. The flames danced wildly, scorching his arm, but he did not stop. He stood at the edge of the volcano, facing the beast. The worm rose again, mouth wide, ready to strike. Karin waited until he could feel its hot breath, the stench of decay and burning stone. Then he roared, the cry of every man who had ever fought to live, and threw the flaming spear into the monster's open mouth. Dash dash dash, the wrath of nature. For a heartbeat, time froze. Then, an explosion. The fire met the gases inside the beast's body, and the world lit up. The giant worm screamed, a sound that echoed through the mountains. Its body convulsed, twisting, burning from within. Lava splashed across the rocks as the creature collapsed into the volcano, dragging itself down into the molten core. The ground shook. The sky turned red. Karin fell to his knees as the heat washed over him, his skin blistering, eyes blinded by light. When the roar faded, only silence remained, the silence of victory, of death, of rebirth. The mountain swallowed the beast, sealing it forever under stone and fire. Dash dash dash. Chapter 7. The Dawn After Darkness. Days passed. The world cooled again. Karin awoke beside the ashes of the volcano. His body was scarred, but alive. Around him, green shoots had begun to rise from the black soil, new life born from destruction. He limped back to the valley. The air was calm now, the sky blue again. His tribe had survived. They had taken shelter in another cave, waiting, praying for his return. When they saw him, they wept. The children ran to him, touching his burned hands. The elders bowed their heads. Karin said nothing. He simply looked to the mountains, where smoke still drifted like memory, and whispered, "We live, for in a world ruled by monsters, survival was the greatest victory of all." Dash dash dash. Epilogue. The legend lives. Generations passed. The story of Karin, the man who fought the earthworm of fire, became legend. His people carved his name on stone, painted his battle on cave walls where the flames still danced. And deep beneath the mountains, something still moved, slowly, silently, as if the creature was not truly dead, merely sleeping. Waiting for another age, waiting for man to rise again, waiting to remind the world that nature never forgets, and never forgives.